An important notice informed all that to protect the identities of the agency's streamers, they will be depicted in their real-life appearances as their streaming avatars. This work was a non-stop comedy chronicling the hectic daily life of VTubers, with a plea for forgiveness for not shattering the audience's dreams. The story began with the time a big brother crashed into his little sister's stream and was treated like a VTuber. Moments later, a cheerful young woman greeted her audience, introducing herself as Haruka Sakura, the runaway heiress VTuber. She continued her stream, announcing a special guest for today's session, the same person who had appeared yesterday. As comments flooded in, some expressing excitement and others asking about the guest's whereabouts, she clarified that for now, only his voice would be joining them. With a wide, beaming smile, she then proudly declared the guest's identity. "Here's my big bro." It seemed a streaming incident was unfolding right from the start. Her brother, standing before a microphone, appeared utterly bewildered by the sudden announcement, his mind racing with the question of what was truly happening. This marked the beginning of Chapter 1. Big Bro joins the battle. The narrative then shifted back to the previous night, when he had been searching for his sister. He had called out to her, asking if she had seen his Smash Brothers game, but received no response from behind her closed door, as if she were a corpse. He continued to knock, calling out to her, but the late hour of 1:30 a.m. made him wonder if she was simply asleep. The sound of a chair creaking, a kachak, revealed Haruka Sakura slumped over her desk, fast asleep amidst her streaming setup. Her brother discovered her in this state, noticing her phone nearby. On her monitor, a game screen displayed multiple "you lose" messages accompanied by her mascot avatar, Sakura Machi-chan, and a stark declaration. "Wow, you got totally destroyed." He realized she had left the game on, specifically ranked matches. With a determined expression, he picked up the game controller, declaring it was time for him to administer punishment on behalf of his hapless little sister. A soft creak accompanied his movement. He focused intently on the screen, his fingers flying across the controller. Beside him, his sister remained soundly asleep, oblivious to the intense battle he was waging in her place. The game displayed a score of 1-3. Moments later, the screen flashed with a triumphant "You win" message, signaling his victory in the ranked match. Meanwhile, outside the house, the night sky was clear, illuminated by a crescent moon. On the stream, the chat was abuzz with activity. Viewers noted that someone showed up LOL and questioned if this isn't a different brother. A public service announcement quickly clarified, stating, "P.S. A princess fell asleep and Big Bro came in." The chat then erupted with comments like "Big Bro joined the fight," and "Wait, isn't Bro kinda nuts?" concluding with the observation, "He's actually really good." Suddenly, his sister jolted awake, her eyes wide with shock and her mouth agape as she exclaimed, "What did you do, oh?" He turned to her, a calm expression on his face, and simply asked, "About what?" Annoyed by his feigned ignorance, she thrust her phone towards him, demanding, explaining it is annoying. "Here, watch this." On the screen, her avatar, Haruka Sakura, beamed brightly as she announced to her viewers, "All right, I'll be playing SM*SH Brothers this stream." He watched the stream on his phone, observing her avatar and wondering to himself, "Haruka Sakura, is she popular? I don't know much about VTubers." Her avatar continued, "I borrowed the game from my big bro." As her avatar spoke with a peculiar inflection, he listened intently, a thought forming in his mind. This voice, this stupid way of speak Anji. He held up the tablet, its screen displaying a live stream featuring his sister, Haruka Sakura. A wave of disbelief washed over him as he questioned, "It's you?" She responded with a reluctant nod, her expression a mix of annoyance and slight apprehension. He struggled to process the revelation, his mind racing with the implications. "My sister is a VTuber?" He mused internally, finding the situation akin to a fictional plot. Out loud, he voiced his disbelief. "Huh? No way, right?" His eyes widened in shock as he pointed to the tablet, demanding to know, "What's this?" She quickly interjected, her voice laced with panic. "Not that." Afterwards, the screen displayed a clip of him playing the game, accompanied by text overlays that read, "My hapless little sister, all right, and time for punishment on behalf." He recognized his own voice emanating from the device. She looked down, a faint escaping her lips before he quickly asked if he had accidentally revealed her real name. She nodded in relief, murmuring, "Phew, that's good," only to immediately correct herself. "No, that's not good." Her distress escalated as she shouted. This went viral. He could only respond with a confused, "Huh?" The tablet screen confirmed her fears, displaying a clip titled "Sakura's Older Brother," with an astonishing 800,000 views. She exclaimed, "Who cares?" before adding, 800K views in one night. Not even the clips of my new costume do that well. He pondered the gravity of the situation, realizing that's pretty bad. Internally, he wondered, what should I do? Meanwhile, she wailed, convinced that the broadcasting accident would lead to her agency firing her. Suddenly, the manager's avatar appeared on a computer screen, proposing a solution. "Let's do an apology and gaming stream." He could only utter a bewildered, "Excuse me?" He understood the manager's explanation that many people had learned about Sakura due to the incident, and that he should make a guest appearance. However, He quickly countered, stating that he was not a VTuber himself. Moments later, as the stream began, he stared at the screen in utter confusion, seeing the words "Hello there, big bro here" appear, and wondered aloud what exactly was happening. The stream chat exploded with comments, some exclaiming, "Big bro is here," others noting his monotone demeanor, and a few even mistaking him for Dottie, before correcting themselves to just her brother, lol. He wrestled a note from the manager, still trying to process the situation, and wondered why the viewers seemed so happy, unsure of what role he was supposed to play. As he read the manager's instructions, which included directives to protect Haruka's Sakura's lore, be very careful of doxing, and to prohibit any immoral remarks, he couldn't help but internally question his sister's intelligence, wondering if she was truly so foolish. His gaze lingered on the words, his mind fixated on the concept of her lore. Meanwhile, Sakura, radiating cheerfulness, apologized for falling asleep the previous day and promised to do her best today. Her official VTuber lore was then displayed. Haruka Sakura, born in a distinguished family. Sick of her strict lifestyle, she ran away and became a Vtuber. He reacted internally, realizing she had never sounded like a daughter from a rich family and questioning if she had truly run away from home. He expressed his lack of excitement for the situation, telling her not to try and force him to feel better. She, holding an energy drink, asked if he was okay, noting his unenthusiastic tone, and offered him a drink. Sakura, undeterred, cheerfully declared, "Okay, then let's just get to it." He tried repeatedly to get her attention, urging her to, "Hey, listen, and listen to what I'm saying," while the stream comments continued to flow, with viewers expressing pity for him, noting her usual pace, and even calling her a legend for being 24 hours late. He looked utterly bewildered, asking himself, what are they talking about? As more comments appeared, questioning if she had left the first-generation members waiting on her first collaboration, claiming she would have been dead without Sumair Senpai, and praising Sumair Paizen as a saint. He observed the situation, noting that things seemed to have settled down for now. He also realized he hadn't actually apologized for anything. His sister, however, was still animated, exclaiming that she couldn't win at all when playing Smash with her attendance last time. He wondered if attendance was her term for viewers. As she continued, the chat scrolled rapidly, with viewers questioning who this big bro was, some calling him a bot or an NPC, while others jokingly labeled him the Demon King, who thought he was a villager. Sakura, oblivious to the chat's confusion about her brother, declared that she figured she'd get Big Bro to teach her how to play. The game's character selection screen appeared, showing various avatars. Sakura, as Player 1, was restricted to using only Machi, while her brother, Player 2, was expected to pick the Pig King. The match began, pitting Sakura Machi-chan against the Demon King. The Demon King, controlled by her brother, internally grumbled about Sakura being a liar and manipulating his image, while Sakura Machi-chan, controlled by Sakura, recalled a past incident where she was cheesed with Shaki. The chat, meanwhile, commented on the touchy subject and suggested that it was natural for the princess. Back in the real world, her brother looked at her, asserting that she didn't believe him about his skill. She simply responded with a surprise, claiming she had also gotten better. The game resumed, with the Demon King declaring he would beat her up with Sakura Machi-chan as the go signal flashed. Moments later, the game set screen appeared, indicating a swift defeat. Sakura cried out in dismay. No. As the chat exploded with comments about her losing in 2 panels, her loudness, and the Demon King's incredible speed, losing in 5 seconds. Her brother, the Demon King, simply stated, "I won." The game reset, showing the Demon King standing victorious. Sakura, undeterred, immediately requested one more time. The Demon King readily agreed, and the go signal flashed once more, initiating another round. He had just secured another victory, the game screen declaring game set as Sakura Machi-chan was sent flying off the stage. Yet, the next round's GO prompt appeared almost immediately, with a small "not yet" thought from the mascot, hinting at its impending return. The cycle repeated, the game once again announcing game set as Sakura Machi-chan was defeated, only for the go to flash across the screen, signaling another immediate restart. Meanwhile, Sakura slumped over her controller, her expression a mix of exhaustion and despair. The stream's chat scrolled rapidly, filled with comments questioning the nature of the broadcast, noting the repeated defeats of Sakura Machi-chan, and observing the prolonged silence. Viewers speculated that Big Bro was actually the Demon King due to his overwhelming performance, with some even suggesting horrible things were being said about the situation. Seeing her dejected state, he leaned over and offered to implement a handicap to make the game more fair. She instantly perked up, her eyes wide with renewed hope, exclaiming that they should do that immediately. He clarified his proposed handicap. She would win if she merely took 1 stock from him. However, she rejected this, arguing it wasn't a true handicap and instead suggested he use a random select character, acknowledging his skill with every fighter. The chat, observing her quick recovery, joked about her being late to add handicaps, but praised Sakura Machi-chan's resilience. With a determined expression, she then proposed a more extreme handicap for him. He could only use movement, asking how she was supposed to win against him otherwise. The chat quickly chimed in, suggesting various actions he could still perform, such as grabbing, guarding, or dodging, even without his right hand, before ultimately concluding that without the stick, he couldn't move at all. She then looked at the character selection screen, where Sakura Machi-chan was already chosen for player 1. She inquired if Big Bro was the Pig King, a character the chat noted couldn't get back to the stage, implying a severe disadvantage. Another chat message confirmed the brother could only use that specific character. The next round began, and the Demon King character immediately grabbed Sakura Machi-chan, who cried out in frustration, lamenting that she hated command grabs and pleading for her opponent not to just guard. Sakura Machi-chan was then sent plummeting off the stage, helplessly wondering why it couldn't recover and get back to the platform. Sakura slumped over her controller once more. The "You lose" message emblazoned across the screen, signifying her 10th consecutive defeat. The chat exploded with comments, calling the situation cruel, accusing Big Bro of bullying the princess, and even jokingly referring to him as a domestic violence VTuber. Some viewers offered ransom money to make him stop, highlighting the extreme nature of her losing streak. She, having just suffered her 10th defeat, was met with her brother's blunt assessment of her weakness. "Shut up," she retorted, clearly frustrated. He then cleared his throat, addressing the viewers directly, thanking them for watching. Realizing the late hour, she suggested ending the stream for the day, but then paused, questioning her brother's continued presence. After the stream concluded, she apologized for her carelessness. He, looking at the screen, acknowledged that his appearance might have inadvertently damaged her VTuber image for some of her audience. She looked at him, surprised by his words. He continued, stating that while Sakura was always a bit like this, he was relieved to see that many viewers also appreciated this more candid version of her, a sentiment he felt as an older brother. He then mused that she was still as dumb as ever, but clarified that she normally called him Big Bro anyway, implying their usual dynamic. She continued to look at him, repeating Big Bro multiple times, as if processing his words or perhaps in disbelief. He, in turn, offered another apology for the situation and earnestly asked the viewers to continue supporting Haruka Sakura. Later, as night fell, he reflected on the events. He believed his hapless little sister could now return to her normal life, convinced that this appearance would be his last on her stream. However, his quiet resolve was shattered when both he and Sakura stared wide-eyed at the screen. She gasped, exclaiming, "It's trending." The manager's avatar then appeared, confirming their shock. The stream was indeed trending, specifically under the tag Princess Bullying, with other related phrases like "Watch Princess Bullying Again" visible. The manager then inquired about his next appearance. Enraged by this development, Sakura stood outside her home, clenching her fists and roaring at the sky, calling her brother a stupid. Moments later, the young man, Kale, sat with a look of utter bewilderment, stating he didn't understand what was happening. His sister, Sakura, with a determined expression, declared that her foolish brother would be streaming, and his temporary name would be Sakura. He dismissed her suggestion with a wave of his hand, telling her to do as she pleased, but firmly stating that he would not appear. She, however, insisted that he would indeed be making an appearance. Kale reiterated his refusal, explaining that the previous accident had been handled, and there was no further reason for him to show his face. Sakura, her eyes wide with surprise, questioned his reasoning. Her expression shifted to one of revelation as she announced the true reason. Today's stream would feature a new character model. Kale's eyes widened in shock. He looked at her, his face a mask of disbelief, and asked whose character model it was. She simply replied, "Your brother's?" He demanded to know why, utterly bewildered. Sakura clarified that it was because Mom had drawn it, quickly adding that Mom was the artist who designed the VTuber. Kale's mind raced, recalling the previous stream where someone had indeed drawn a character model for him. He questioned if this person, this Mom, who drew a face he didn't recognize, was someone he knew. Sakura, with a knowing smile, confirmed that she certainly knew his face. He stared at his phone, a message from Sakura displaying a picture of his new VTuber model. She had sent his personal information, claiming she had already shared his photo. Sakura, holding her own phone, urged him to take crisis management more seriously, explaining that she had already announced his appearance. He retorted, questioning why she hadn't reported this sooner and if the agency had even approved it. She insisted that if he didn't agree, the drawing wouldn't be used, yet his own opinion felt completely disregarded. As he continued to protest, she winked, assuring him that everything was fine because she had already told the manager. He, however, remained unconvinced, his expression one of utter disbelief as he stared at his phone. Sakura then messaged the manager, inquiring about the agency's approval for her brother's streaming debut. The manager's swift reply suggested she would understand everything if she simply checked YouTube. He, still bewildered, typed Haruka Sakura into his phone's search bar. The results immediately populated with terms like Haruka's Sakura VTuber and Haruka's Sakura PS, deepening his confusion and his reluctance to comprehend the situation. A YouTube thumbnail prominently displayed Haruka's Sakura with a shocking title, DV Brother and Game Set. The unexpected words left him stunned. Sitting before his computer, he stared at the screen, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. He could only utter a hesitant, manager, on a video call. The manager's face appeared, explaining that there was significant interest from many parties in Haruka's Sakura's brother. He, still reeling, questioned if he was merely a regular person or truly her older brother in this context. The manager continued, acknowledging Kale's previous refusal and then, without missing a beat, moved to discuss his next appearance. Kale could only respond with a bewildered, huh? He questioned if this was truly acceptable, given he hadn't signed any contract to appear in a broadcast. The manager, visible on the video call screen, simply stated it was fine because it was interesting, and that was just how things were. He then wondered if his superior, the manager, had completely lost his mind, internally musing that 4 or 5 screws must be loose. The manager, meanwhile, declared that it was a big deal. The scene shifted to an imposing building, identified as Prism Shift, the Vtuber agency his foolish sister belonged to, commonly known as PS. He internally commented that this place was truly crazy. He continued his internal monologue, explaining that the boss at PS operated on a laissez-faire principle, believing it was best to let people do as they pleased. That, he concluded, was precisely why his problematic sister was allowed to continue as a VTuber in such a chaotic agency. Back in Kale's room, his sister, Haruka Sakura, a second-generation PS streamer, greeted her audience cheerfully. He sat beside her, watching the live stream, which displayed Sakura's avatar and a new avatar labeled Haruka Sakura's brother. Comments scrolled by, asking oh hey oh, and then, he's coming, right? They already announced it. Is the brother a rival after all? Official, unofficial rival, and the personification of contradiction, lol. Sakura, beaming with excitement, confirmed to her audience that her brother was indeed there. The live viewer count displayed a staggering 5,021. She noted that while she hadn't cared about the numbers before, a lot of people were watching now. Kale, looking somewhat resigned, offered a simple hello, I'm brother, to the audience. On-screen comments quickly appeared. The usual stick reading, oh, is this the second time it's become a regular thing? The energetic princess and the unenergetic brother are a marriage. So cute, oh. And the princess aside, is the brother cute? He internally lamented that his reputation was suffering from being read like a stick, and he wasn't even a streamer. Sakura, still radiating cheerfulness, then announced that today they would reveal her brother's standing illustration. She then asked if he no longer needed a makoji, implying a prior agreement or setup was now unnecessary. Kale, looking visibly annoyed, retorted that he had never uttered such a word before. Sakura, with a smug expression, then asked if he was making fun of her. He denied it, stating he was merely thinking she was an idiot. She then pressed further, asking if he meant he was making a doya face, a triumphant or smug expression. He remained visibly annoyed as the live comments continued to flood in, some viewers remarking on the apparent closeness between him and Sakura, while others questioned if their sibling dynamic was typical. There were even inquiries about a brother-princess cup, though the general consensus was that their interactions weren't that extensive. Still grappling with the absurdity of the situation, he internally questioned who could have possibly drawn his VTuber model, feeling a profound lack of desire to continue this charade. Meanwhile, the audience speculated, wondering if the standing illustration was fan art or an official creation, with many hoping it wasn't official, as that would be truly shocking. As he pondered the identity of the artist, Sakura, oblivious to his internal turmoil, suggested they turn the reveal into a quiz, believing the listeners wouldn't know the answer. He simply told her to wait, while the comments section buzzed with questions about whose channel this truly was, and if it was time for a channel name change, suggesting Haruka's siblings channel. Sakura, with a mischievous grin, then declared that the winner of the quiz would be granted the right to challenge brother. The audience reacted with alarm, some calling it a ticket to hell, and others a public execution, warning against such a dangerous proposition. He let out a sigh of exasperation as Sakura, ignoring his discomfort, urged him to guess the artist. The comment section offered various theories, from official artists to fan art, and even a passing divine artist for 2,000 yen, with some jokingly suggesting it was a real gamble or that Heim drew it. Suddenly, a comment appeared, revealing the artist's identity, Mom. The audience reacted with surprise, some exclaiming, is it really Mom? And others realizing, it's the real deal, not a fake. Sakura, now beaming, confirmed that Mom had indeed drawn it, and announced that it was time to reveal the standing illustration to everyone. With a flourish, Sakura unveiled his VTuber standing illustration. The avatar depicted a strikingly handsome young man with a cool, composed demeanor, wearing a stylish, dark-toned top with prominent stripes. The audience immediately erupted with positive comments, praising the design as cool and highly complete, wondering if it could move and noting the resemblance to Heim's artistic touch. Sakura gushed over the illustration, agreeing with the comments that it was incredibly handsome. He, however, stared at the image with a puzzled expression, questioning why the avatar had such gentle eyes, and if his own eyes were truly that bad, feeling a disconnect from the idealized image. Sakura, amused by his reaction, playfully asked if he had never looked in a mirror. He continued to grapple with the idea of being considered handsome to a fatal level, while the comments section continued to discuss the artist, with some viewers now confidently stating, it's Heim's mom, isn't it? Still processing the revelation, Kale heard Sakura confirm that their mother, Mom, had indeed drawn his VTuber avatar at her request. He questioned her words, his mind struggling to reconcile the information, while the audience comments scrolled by, speculating about his transformation into a king brother or even a slime. She, her eyes wide with a mix of surprise and a hint of mischief, pressed him, asking if he truly heard her say she had asked Mom to do it. As she continued, Sakura explained that he had been actively called to participate in this broadcast. Kale, looking increasingly exasperated, seemed to grasp the implication of her words. His frustration mounting, Kale's eyes widened in disbelief and anger, his knuckles whitening as he clenched his fist. He demanded a more detailed explanation of the situation. Still reeling, Kale sat hunched over his computer, clutching his head, as Sakura's smiling face remained on the screen. The audience comments continued to scroll, some playfully referring to her as a princess and discussing ransom payments, further highlighting the DV brother persona. He then turned to her, asking why she had made such a request. She responded cheerfully that everyone wanted to see it. Pressing further, Kale asked what happened next. Sakura confirmed that it was his channel, and when he inquired if Mom had approved, she readily affirmed it. He then questioned his own role, asking if he wasn't even an office worker, implying he wasn't a VTuber. Sakura simply confirmed his statement. Meanwhile, the audience comments continued, some humorously suggesting ransom and abuse payments. As he prepared to end the broadcast, Sakura abruptly stopped him, reminding him that he needed to read the super chats. Confused, he asked what they were, and she explained they were donations, urging him to read the names and messages at the end of the stream. He observed the comments, which included a plea for the stream to never end and a mention of extending it for 200 yen. Sakura, standing beside him, smiled expectantly, urging him to hurry and read them. Sakura, in her VTuber avatar, pleaded with her audience, asking for help and claiming her brother would kill her. A list of super chat amounts and their associated messages appeared, including 200 yen, body price, 1500 yen, support price, 800 yen, extension price, and 1000 yen, body price. One message also questioned if this was a New Year's shrine. The super chat messages continue to scroll, displaying requests like 1200 yen, princess, run away, and a warning that if a super chat cuts off midway, it's over. Another message assured, don't worry, I won't take your life. Kale, observing the stream, pondered if he should truly end it, given the current situation. He then urged himself to quickly read the remaining super chats and finish the broadcast. Sakura, still in her VTuber persona, smiled brightly, wondering if everyone wanted to see more. Back in their real forms, Kale looked at Sakura with a mixture of annoyance and disbelief. He remarked that he had never seen such sad super chats, noting that his voice was trembling. Sakura, meanwhile, appeared concerned as she read the messages, which included Countdown to Heaven, What About Hell, and Beyond That Is Hell. One message simply expressed grief. The stream concluded, displaying a message that the broadcast had ended. Sakura, in her avatar, waved goodbye to her audience. Kale, looking directly at the viewer with wide, startled eyes, held up a peace sign with a look of utter exasperation, as if questioning if he was truly prepared for this. Sakura, in her VTuber avatar, clutched her head in distress, lamenting the mess and declaring that the lines were hers. Kale, looking utterly exasperated, confronted Sakura, stating that he was being forcibly dragged into this broadcast against his will. Sakura, however, pointed to a video clip on a screen titled Brother. Haruke Sakura, Brother DV, Princess Abuse, with 970,000 views, implying that his DV brother persona was a hit. She then questioned how he could ruin things both in the game and in real life. Kale, with a look of deep resignation, acknowledged that he had not just dipped a toe into the VTuber world, but had plunged in up to his waist. He desperately wished to return to his ordinary life, a quiet existence far removed from the chaotic world of VTubing. But his phone buzzed, pulling him back. It was Sakura, sending a flurry of messages, including one from their mother, asking if she could also move in 2D. Kale stared at the screen, a single thought forming, Mama-san. The realization solidified. His path into the VTuber world was not only progressing steadily, but was now pulling in his own family. Suddenly, a shriek echoed, followed by a frantic cry about a lost smartphone, as if the very house itself was reeling from the shock. A young man, visibly exhausted, muttered about his weariness. Beside him, a cheerful young woman, full of energy, called out to him, suggesting they play a game. Half a month had passed since the first broadcast, and this marked his 5th time participating in his sister's stream. He found himself once again summoned to her room. She urged him to begin, asking if he was truly all right with the situation, implying it was not a phase of adolescence. He retorted, warning her not to joke around, stating he would not participate if she continued. He then questioned the title of the stream, to which she emphatically declared it was already decided, and that was why they were doing it. With a sudden burst of energy, the two of them, now seemingly invincible, began to relentlessly pummel him. He stared at the screen, which displayed a revenge game stream, featuring Haruke's Sakura, utterly bewildered by the turn of events. She cheerfully explained that she had prepared a penalty game for the loser, adding that she had anticipated his reaction. He simply responded with a questioning sound. She then declared that if she won, he would have to listen to anything she said. He, in turn, firmly stated his intention to go home. She quickly interjected, reminding Kale that if he were to win, there would also be a condition for him. Kale, looking away from her, simply told her to state her terms. She then revealed her condition, her eyes wide and a determined expression on her face. If Kale won, she would stream a horror game. Kale's expression hardened as he processed her words, realizing she knew his aversion to horror games. Sakura watched him intently. He recalled a past incident where he had been so terrified by a haunted house that he had fled. He pointed a finger at her, accusing her of manipulation. Sakura, however, grinned widely, challenging him. She asked if he was truly serious about winning, implying he should accept the stakes. After a moment, Kale agreed. She triumphantly announced to her audience that Kale had agreed, asking if everyone had heard. Kale, looking at the screen, seemed to question the audience's involvement. As comments flooded in, some expressing excitement and others disbelief, Kale leaned in, asking Sakura if the stream had already begun. She, still grinning, confirmed it. He clenched his jaw, thinking to himself that this was the worst, and questioned if it was acceptable to just stream their private conversation. Sakura, undeterred, cheerfully greeted her audience, declaring that today she would utterly defeat her brother. She exuded an air of confidence. She further boasted that it was only natural, as she had prepared a secret strategy to take down a real otaku, shut-in gamer. Kale, looking exasperated, retorted that he was not a shut-in. She then leaned in, her expression one of playful secrecy, asking Kale if he truly wanted to know her secret strategy. Internally, Kale grumbled, observing her as a real otaku gamer. With a triumphant smile, she declared that her secret strategy was to use a dekopin attack, which would increase in power when struck with both hands. She confidently stated that this was her fastest strategy yet. Suddenly, a new face appeared on screen, a young woman with distinctive pigtails, who cheerfully introduced herself as Yaeshi Momiji, a second-generation streamer, and greeted everyone warmly. He stared blankly, clearly confused by the sudden appearance, asking who she was. Sakura, however, explained that it was a collaboration, assuring him that everything was fine as it was already in the thumbnail. Internally, Kale grumbled about collaborating with his idiot sister, questioning if the manager was serious. Meanwhile, comments from the audience expressed excitement about the collaboration. Momiji, now fully visible, formally greeted Kale, introducing herself again as Yaeshi Momiji, a peer of Sakura, and expressed her hopes for a good collaboration today. Sakura then explained to Kale that Momiji was a fellow streamer at his level, urging him to prepare himself for the interaction. Kale, still somewhat bewildered, offered a simple greeting in return. He apologized to Momiji, who graciously accepted, stating that it was fine as they were the same age. Kale then realized they hadn't even met in person yet, let alone collaborated. Momiji, with a bright smile, formally greeted Kale once more, asking for his continued support. Kale, still processing the situation, suggested they drop the honorifics since she was younger. Sakura, observing the exchange, found it amusing. Momiji and Sakura cheered loudly, celebrating the new collaboration. Momiji then turned to the audience, apologizing for Sakura's behavior, while the comments praised Momiji as a good kid and noted Sakura's reliance on luck rather than skill. Momiji, brimming with excitement, urged Kale to quickly begin the party battle game. Kale, however, remained bewildered, asking what exactly he was supposed to do, while Sakura stood by, observing the unfolding situation. As she spoke, Kale reflected that he was indeed unfamiliar with this type of game, as he primarily played solo. Momiji confirmed his lack of experience with such party-oriented titles. Despite his unfamiliarity, Kale, a mischievous grin spreading across his face, declared that even if he hadn't played, it didn't guarantee Momiji's strength. He playfully called her suggestion a scheme. Momiji, taken aback, questioned if he was referring to her. Observing their exchange, Samaire, with a gentle smile, remarked that their rare sibling dynamic was clearly conveyed. Yaeshi, also smiling, agreed, adding that Momiji was a true anime enthusiast. Meanwhile, Kale, still processing the collaboration, questioned Momiji, asking why an anime fan like her would collaborate with his sister. He then directly asked if she liked Yaeshi anime. She enthusiastically confirmed her passion for it, then turned the question back to Kale, asking if he watched it often. Kale admitted he only knew the famous parts, while Sakura, he noted, didn't watch it much at all. Elsewhere, Samaire and Yaeshi continued their own discussion, pondering Kale's favorite last boss character. Samaire suggested Gilgamesh from FGO, and Yaeshi readily agreed, stating that such a character suited Kale well. Kale, hearing their assessment, seemed surprised, asking if he truly embodied a king-like character. Momiji quickly clarified that he was more akin to a demon king. Momiji, invigorated by the playful challenge, cheered excitedly. Kale, with a confident smile, declared that he wouldn't go all out against mere small fry. Amidst their spirited exchange, Sakura looked on, utterly bewildered, wondering what the two of them were even talking about. On-screen comments from the audience highlighted Momiji's high energy, praised Kale's impressive voice imitation, and playfully debated whether Kale was a demon king or a hero king, noting his game and anime otaku specifications. She beamed with excitement, calling out to her brother, declaring that their anime discussion felt like a long-awaited reunion and urging him to continue with more of it. Meanwhile, Yaeshi observed that Momiji sometimes flipped a strange switch, while Kale, looking annoyed, muttered about the terrible setup. Still brimming with energy, Momiji asked if Kale would do a The Beast impression, then quickly corrected herself, asking if he would do a Deosun impression instead. She pressed on, asking him to perform the aura for her, but he retorted that he couldn't do it and that she already knew he couldn't. He let out a deep sigh of exasperation, while she remained utterly captivated and eagerly expectant. As their playful banter intensified, Kale, embodying his Demon King persona, challenged Momiji, asking if she truly intended to approach him. Momiji, in turn, adopting a hero king stance, declared that she must get closer to defeat him. He internally noted that his sister was an idiot and the comment section was completely out of control, with viewers remarking that Momiji was broken, calling her the Beast, and suggesting that Kale could do anything. He pondered the situation, wondering why he had been called for this collaboration stream, which seemed to be nothing more than a casual chat. Yaeshi's voice cut through the air, instructing Kale to calm down and announcing that they would finally begin the game, explaining that the first person to reach the goal would be the winner. The game board appeared, showing Sakura in the lead at first place, Momiji close behind in second, and Kale trailing in third, while the chat buzzed with comments about the game's progress and player items. Momiji, holding a game controller, turned to Sakura and remarked that Kale was indeed a gentle person. Sakura, looking slightly surprised, listened intently. Momiji then reacted with a shocked expression, repeating Kale's words about being made to look like an abusive partner and being an S-type. A large die lay on the game board, indicating the game was in progress. A diagram on the screen showed a path with various points, while Kale's internal thoughts drifted to his reluctance to be a streamer or even a fan. He wondered if he truly hated appearing on streams. Momiji, still questioning, asked Kale why he was on the stream if he disliked it. He, with a serious expression, explained that he had been asked by Sakura. Momiji seemed surprised by this revelation, as the game indicated it was the second dice roll. He continued, stating that he couldn't simply ignore such a request, especially from Sakura, as it would be socially unacceptable. Momiji, still surprised, then inquired about the folding time after the stream, while the game board showed Sakura's piece at 3p with 20 points and Kale's at 65. Momiji, looking exasperated, declared that Sakura, was in the wrong, and that Kale was indeed N-type. She lamented that Kale was serious, but never learned or reflected on her actions. She then playfully demanded 2,000 yen as an appearance fee for the day. Kale, his expression stern, warned Momiji that if she pulled such a stunt again, he would delete her channel. Sakura, looking utterly shocked, wondered why she was being punished. Sakura, now visibly distressed, protested Kale's threat, exclaiming that it was too much and that all their supporters would cry if he did that. She pleaded with Kale to wait, promising to apologize. Kale, maintaining his serious demeanor, then addressed the audience, thanking all the fans who had supported them thus far. Sakura, now smiling, echoed Kale's earlier warning, saying, "If you do it again." Kale, still serious, repeated the ominous phrase, "If you do it again." He declared his intention to play seriously, his gaze sharp and focused. Beside him, Sakura observed the exchange, noting how close they seemed. As the game board displayed their progress, Sakura, with a slight tilt of her head, wondered aloud if Yaeshi's voice had been muted. Kale, however, remained absorbed in the game, his attention fixed on the board. Momiji, with a mischievous grin, playfully warned Kale that she was on the verge of victory, needing only a roll of 6 to reach the goal. He, startled by her confidence, realized he had momentarily forgotten the game and resolved not to let her win so easily. Suddenly, a back card was played, forcing Momiji to move backward on the board. Kale, observing the turn of events, commented on the card's effect. Momiji, taken aback, questioned if she could use a card to negate the effect. Sakura confirmed that such a move was indeed possible, provided she possessed the right card. To her dismay, Momiji realized she held no item cards, leaving her unable to counter the back card's effect. She let out a frustrated cry, cursing Kale's actions. The game continued, displaying Momiji's turn with options for rolling the dice or using an item. Kale's internal thoughts noted Momiji's difficulty in rolling a 6 and the bonus she had received, wondering if this turn would lead to his defeat. Momiji then challenged Kale, asking if he would grant her any wish within reason if she won the game. He agreed, but immediately countered with a fierce declaration that he would absolutely win. Kale, maintaining his cool demeanor, stated his intention to proceed calmly. The dice spun, with a comment indicating that if he rolled a 2, he would move back 8 spaces. The dice landed, revealing a 2. Kale, surprised by the outcome, acknowledged Momiji's unexpected luck. Momiji, witnessing Kale's dice roll, gasped in disbelief, her eyes wide with shock. She muttered a soft, drawn-out sound of surprise, realizing the implications of his turn. Her initial shock quickly turned to desperation as she pleaded with him, reminding him that if he reached the goal, it would be her loss. She insisted he must not win, urging him to lose instead. Kale, observing her sudden panic, noted her desperate state. The dice, having been rolled, settled on a 3. This outcome seemed to confirm Momiji's fears, as she was described as being in a state of intense desperation. Despite her earlier pleas, she then playfully teased him, asking if he truly didn't understand that if she advanced 6 spaces, she would win. She questioned why he was being so difficult. He responded, dismissing her statement and asserting that she was mistaken in her understanding of the game's current state. He then challenged her, asking how many times she had rolled a 6 already, implying her luck had run out. Momiji, however, burst into laughter, seemingly unfazed, while Sakura looked on, confused by the exchange. Sakura, still trying to comprehend the situation, admitted she didn't understand what they were talking about, but she sensed Kale was being mocked. He, in turn, challenged Momiji to test her luck. With a fierce expression, he declared that she should just try to roll the dice, urging her to make her move. He then prepared to roll the dice himself, his gaze intense. The dice spun and landed, revealing a 4. He had just rolled a 4, a 1 in 6 chance securing his goal. Across from him, Momiji cried out in despair, declaring her defeat. Still reeling from the outcome, Momiji questioned him, asking if he had used a playing miss and an item card that allowed him to advance 6 spaces. He acknowledged her point, but clarified that his last move had been a preemie. Despite her concession that it was merely luck and nothing could be done, Momiji then shifted her focus, asking if the beast had been unlocked. He confirmed it, explaining that if Yaeshi had been serious, it would have been a truly fine play. He then confidently asserted that he would win. Her frustration was evident as she appeared on a screen, the word goal displayed prominently. Internally, she resolved that if she lost, she would throw a tantrum. Meanwhile, from within a nearby house, Kale's voice boomed, exclaiming, "Damn little sister!" He declared his victory for the day, adding that if he were to lose, he too would appropriately throw a tantrum. The house stood moments later. The young man declared his intention to collaborate, prompting his sister to question if he had hit his head, clearly surprised by his sudden announcement. The scene then shifted to the previous night, where the sister appeared distressed, her eyes wide with concern, as she and her brother, along with their colleagues Yaeshi and Momiji, discussed the reading of super chats. Her brother, looking somewhat exasperated, simply acknowledged the situation. As the conversation continued, the sister's hand was visible as she read about Samire, a legendary first-generation VTuber. The text detailed a past incident where Samire was the victim of a delayed first collaboration, an event that had become infamous. His thoughts turned inward, recognizing this as a crucial opportunity to formally apologize. However, he also acknowledged the significant risk involved in meeting a live streamer in person, a concern that weighed heavily on him. Under the crescent moon, casting shadows over the house, his internal monologue continued. He concluded that he first needed to meet with Samire and express his desire to apologize, not just to her, but also to the fans. Back in the present, he reiterated his intention to collaborate. His sister, still looking bewildered, asked if he was going to see a doctor, pointing out that he hadn't explained anything about his sudden decision. As she ate an ice cream bar, she recalled that an offer had indeed come from Samire. She then playfully questioned if he had forgotten his manners, addressing him with a familiar, slightly teasing term. Lying comfortably on the couch, she continued to tease him, remarking that despite his intelligence, he could sometimes be quite foolish. She then pressed him, asking why he, who typically disliked collaborations, would agree to one now. Despite her skepticism, Kale firmly stated his absolute desire to meet Samire, a declaration that seemed to catch her off guard. Following his firm declaration, she pondered the feasibility of a single collaboration being enough to achieve his goal. She wondered if there was truly no other way. As she considered the implications, Kale, standing nearby, questioned her, asking if she truly liked him that much. He then asserted that no one could dislike such a kind person, referring to Samire. Sakura, with a closed-eye smile, dismissed his concern, stating that it was fortunate there wasn't a major incident, given the 24-hour delay, and that Samire was like a goddess. Amidst their discussion, a thought echoed, questioning if Samire could truly be relied upon. Later, Sakura was on the phone, expressing a bad feeling about something, but then reassured the person on the other end that she was enthusiastic and would convince her brother to join. After her call, Sakura turned to Kale, asking if he, as a gamer, truly wanted to play games with various people. He confirmed it, stating that gamers were indeed like that, and that was why he wanted to appear on Yazakura games. She then expressed a slight worry about not being good at games, hoping she wouldn't be disliked, and wondered if it might even turn into a serious romance. Elsewhere, Samire greeted her audience, introducing herself as Fubuki Samire, a first-generation PS talent. Following Samire's introduction, Sakura, with a slightly different appearance, also greeted the audience cheerfully, identifying herself as Haruka Sakura, a second-generation PS talent. Together, they acknowledged the chat, with Samire welcoming Haruchan and Sakura enthusiastically greeting Paisen. The chat messages scrolled by, some commenting on Sakura's use of honorifics and others on Paisen's vastness of heart. As the stream continued, Samire confirmed that another person would be joining them today, besides Haruchan. Sakura, with a knowing smile, affirmed that he was indeed coming, referring to her brother. He appeared on the screen, a wide smile gracing his face, and introduced himself as the unofficial, unapproved VTuber, Kale's older brother. His expression conveyed a slight surprise at the situation. She greeted him warmly, asking if she could call him Oni-san, a term of endearment for an older brother. He, still smiling, thanked her and requested that she refer to him as Fubuki-senpai. Despite his polite demeanor, the stream's chat was abuzz with comments, noting his unusual formality and questioning the unofficial, unapproved VTuber title, with some even calling him too polite. Samire noted his unusual formality, observing that his greeting was quite different from his usual style, which typically involved a more appropriate introduction. Sakura, taken aback, questioned if it was truly him. He then offered a sincere apology to his sister for the trouble he had caused. Sakura, still looking surprised, asked if he was referring to the nuisance, before quickly reassuring him that she didn't mind at all. He further explained his concern, stating that he had been worried something might have happened when she didn't answer his call earlier. Sakura, with a gentle smile, reassured him not to worry at all, but he insisted he needed to apologize properly again. Her attention then shifted to the stream's chat, where viewers were discussing the social gathering and the conversation between two adults. They were also calling Samire, Pai-san, and Kale, leaving Sakura utterly confused by their interpretations. Samire, shifting the topic, inquired about his gaming habits, mentioning that she often watched his streams. He confirmed that he played frequently. She confessed her own lack of skill, admitting she didn't play much and wasn't very good. He acknowledged this, adding that he also planned to play a game he wasn't familiar with today, concluding that they were both beginners. Samire then asked if they would be doing a party battle. He confirmed that he had played with his sister before, but today he wanted to focus on a trap-style game, leaving Sakura to ponder his intentions. He listened as Samire admitted she had only played card games, specifically Trump, a few times and was not very good. He reassured her, suggesting they take their time and confirm the rules as they progressed. She then declared with a determined smile that she would not lose. He returned her smile, stating that he hoped for nothing less. Meanwhile, in her own virtual space, Sakura slammed her hand down, her face contorted in frustration, exclaiming for them to stop their antics. The chat buzzed with comments, noting her outburst and the unexpected tension. Her eyes wide with concern, Sakura asked Kale what was wrong, wondering if he was ill, as she had never seen him fly off the handle like that before. He, however, calmly asked if something had flown by. Still observing the stream, she questioned his excessive politeness towards Samire, pointing out that he had been perfectly normal with Momiji. He explained that Momiji had specifically requested him to act normally. Samire then interjected, asking Kale if he would mind addressing her more casually, as her full name was quite long. He agreed, stating he would call her Samire. Sakura gasped in utter shock at Kale's casual address, her eyes wide with disbelief. He merely smiled, noting her extreme reaction, as if the world had been turned upside down. Still reeling, she pointed out that his behavior with Samire was entirely different from how he treated Yaeshi and Momiji, asking if he was feeling strange today. He averted his gaze, offering no immediate response. Samire, meanwhile, was visibly flustered, a deep blush spreading across her face as she wondered if Kale's casual address was some kind of confession. The chat exploded with excitement, interpreting it as a major development. Sakura, her expression serious, leaned in and quietly asked Kale what he truly thought of Samire. He hesitated, then questioned if she wanted him to state his feelings directly in front of Samire, internally pondering how such a declaration could be misconstrued as a punishment game and leave a bad impression, concluding that he should instead honestly state the truth. Kale, having decided to speak the truth, directly addressed Samire, telling her to be modest, as she was a goddess. Samire reacted with wide-eyed shock and a flustered expression, repeating his words in disbelief. The chat exploded with comments, noting Kale's declaration of affection for Pai-san and predicting chaos. Her shock intensified, her eyes spiraling as she stammered, unable to process his words. Meanwhile, Kale, with a calm demeanor, questioned if her high praise for him, calling him a Pai-san, was perhaps too much, especially considering his past self before becoming a VTuber. He then apologized to Samire for speaking about such things in front of her, acknowledging his directness. She, still flustered, covered her mouth, seemingly overwhelmed by the sudden turn of conversation regarding her feelings for Pai-san. Samire's face flushed deeply, her eyes wide with embarrassment as the chat continued its frenzy. Viewers welcomed Kale to this world, noting his initial shyness and calling him Pai-san, who was holding back, suggesting he was fundamentally innocent. Kale, now smiling, suggested they play a game, stating it would be difficult to apologize properly if he kept dwelling on things that made her uncomfortable. Samire, still visibly flustered, agreed to the game. The game they chose was 7 Aligned, with the rules displayed for the audience. The chat, however, was still fixated on Kale's earlier declaration, with one viewer urging Samire to stop mumbling about serious romance and to focus on the game, while others commented on the details of Kale and Paisan's relationship and the game's rules, predicting early trouble for the collaboration. As the game began, Kale asked Samire if she was a snow woman, a reference to a specific type of character. She confirmed that she was. Samire then questioned Kale, asking if he was a spring flower, noting that she was a snow woman despite him being a Python. Kale clarified that he was merely curious. The game continued, with cards laid out. He then complimented her, saying that the beautiful flower suited her perfectly. Samire, blushing, thanked him, clearly pleased by the unexpected compliment. Samire, still flustered, looked away as the chat continued to buzz. Viewers now saw Kale's actions as undeniable signs of serious romance, noting how cute Python was when blushing and urging him not to push too hard in this first collaboration, as they were already rooting for him. The game of 7 aligned continued, with the board filling rapidly. Spectators urged Kale to play his 8, noting that Sakura had already passed 4 times. They questioned if Kale, despite not being a VTuber, would make a significant move, while others observed his current hesitation. As the game progressed, Sakura, with a bright smile, reminded Kale of their wager. If she won, he would grant her any reasonable request, and she, in turn, would do anything for him within reason. Kale, however, seemed more concerned with the game's mechanics, dismissing the idea of 2 passes. Samire, surprised by Kale's earlier comment, then proposed her own stake. If she won, she wished to appear on a show, adding that she would even prefer to lose. Kale, taken aback, questioned her sincerity. Meanwhile, the audience buzzed with speculation, interpreting Samire's proposal as a collaboration invitation and noting Kale's unusual demeanor in front of his favorite. Sakura cried out in dismay, realizing she had exhausted all her passes. Despite her predicament, she confirmed she could still attend the agency studio. The audience, including Yaeshi and Momiji, continued to observe, commenting on Kale's character, Momiji's excitement, and the perceived lack of Kale's self-defense against romantic implications. Samire reiterated her desire for a program appearance if she won, then confessed her true motivation. She genuinely wished to meet Kale in person. He expressed surprise, noting he never expected such an invitation to come from her side. The audience continued their fervent discussion, wondering if Kale would indeed meet Samire. They speculated about the potential formation of a couple, describing Kale as super sadistic and Samire as innocent, eagerly anticipating the outcome. Yaeshi and Momiji continued to observe the unfolding situation, with Yaeshi making a brief, amused comment. Momiji, ever watchful, considered the strategic implications. Losing now would mean failing to achieve her goal, but intentionally losing might create a negative impression. She concluded that winning might be the better path. Samire, having run out of passes, asked Kale if he would play the 8 of hearts, then questioned if her loss would result in a penalty game. Kale, seeing an opportunity, agreed, stating that if she lost, he would have her participate in an offline collaboration on his channel, which would allow them to meet directly. Kale internally declared the situation perfect, realizing that regardless of whether he won or lost, he would now have an opportunity to meet Samire. He resolved to properly thank her afterward, no matter the circumstances. The game continued, with Kale's hand now visible. The audience, noting his lack of passes, wondered if it was his turn to win, while Kale himself acknowledged his carelessness. Spectators urged him to play the 8. He watched as Samire played her card, an 8 of diamonds, which she immediately claimed was a mistake, confusing it with a 9 due to their similar appearance. His internal frustration, however, was met with the audience's amusement, who saw through the supposed error as a calculated move, a testament to his high skill. Despite the apparent misplay, the game concluded with Samire's victory. She triumphantly declared her win, her voice filled with satisfaction. He offered a subtle smile, reflecting on his strategy. He had deliberately used all his passes, not to win against Samire, but to ensure his sister's defeat. Meanwhile, his sister, Haruka Sakura, looked up at him, eagerly asking what would happen next. Sakura, observing her brother's unusual demeanor throughout the day, expressed her discomfort, calling him gross. The audience, too, seemed to notice his strange behavior, urging him to stop being naturally gross. Despite his earlier strategic maneuvering, Kale internally acknowledged the final outcome. He had won nearly every subsequent game, but the initial wager on 7 aligned had gone to Samire. This meant he was now obligated to appear on her program, a consequence he seemed to accept with a hidden agenda. From his perspective, the true victory was not in the game itself, but in the opportunity it created. He had secured a legitimate reason to meet Samire in person, a strategic triumph that overshadowed his loss in the card game. 12 hours later, the scene shifted to Haruka's Sakura. Looking utterly exhausted, apologized for having fallen asleep. Her viewers, however, seemed understanding, noting that rest was beneficial and that a new, important figure had arrived, possibly referring to the upcoming collaboration. Despite her own fatigue, Sakura's concern immediately turned to Haru-chan, wondering if she was alright, as her calls and Discord messages went unanswered. Her viewers were deeply impressed by her patience and kindness, likening her to a goddess. Still fighting off sleep, Sakura urged her viewers to wait just a little longer, but kindly advised them to go to sleep if they were tired. Her audience, however, seemed more concerned for her well-being, suggesting that she should be the one resting, even joking about Samire's ASMR. Despite her visible exhaustion, Sakura firmly stated that she was fine and would continue to wait for Haru-chan. She explained that her anxiety would prevent her from sleeping until she confirmed Haru-chan's safety. Her viewers, witnessing her dedication, continued to urge her to rest. She stirred, her eyes heavy with fatigue, as 15 hours passed. "Ah, I'm sorry," she mumbled, her voice barely a whisper. "I fell asleep. I'm still doing it. I'm really tired." Still, her worry persisted. She wondered if something truly had happened, as she still couldn't reach Haru-chan. She mused that only Samire would come up with such an idea. Usually, it would be a simple house arrest. She felt that if things continued this way, she might even start to like it. Her exhaustion finally claimed her, and she drifted into a deep sleep, murmuring softly as 17 hours elapsed. After 20 hours, a voice gently roused her, asking if she was awake and informing her it was already 6 in the morning. She apologized again for having fallen asleep. Nearly 24 hours later, at 23 hours and 56 minutes, she was startled awake by the arrival of Samire, Momiji, and Yaeshi. A wave of immense relief washed over her as she saw Haru-chan was safe. Samire immediately offered her apologies for the delay, explaining that she had dropped both her phone and her computer. Haruka's Sakura, still processing the situation, expressed her relief that nothing seemed to have been lost. Momiji and Yaeshi, seeing her profound exhaustion, gently urged her to get some rest. Haruka's Sakura, surprised by their collective concern, could only manage a soft, questioning sound. The atmosphere was lively as Sakura, Samire, and a new, energetic young man laughed together, celebrating the start of what was announced as Sakura Games. The young man, with a wide, fanged grin, then introduced himself as Saisori's Yato Grants, a demon lord resurrected in the modern era, welcoming everyone to his broadcast. As the broadcast continued, Sakura greeted her audience, identifying herself as Sakura Haruka from the PS second generation. She acknowledged the regular schedule of the Sakura Games, but also commented on Yato's self-proclaimed title, noting that the Demon Lord role was already taken. Saisori's then turned to Kale, clarifying that he was not part of the Vtuber group and was not a Vtuber himself. He then dramatically announced that he had summoned a guest for the broadcast. Moments later, Kale appeared, offering a simple greeting to the audience. The broadcast text identified him as Brother and another Satan, with viewers excitedly commenting on the arrival of Brother and the prospect of a Demon Lord versus Dekurai battle. Saisori's, his earlier enthusiasm now tinged with a hint of frustration, looked down, realizing that his moment in the spotlight for Sakura Games might be overshadowed. As the conversation continued, Sakura explained that Saisori's, the PS game manager, had called her brother, the very person who had recently usurped him and now also claimed the title of Demon Lord. Saisori's, clearly agitated, demanded to know who the true Demon Lord was, declaring that he needed to teach Kale a lesson. Kale calmly denied ever calling himself a Demon Lord, prompting Sakura to interject that he was being called one because of his exceptional gaming skills, even achieving an S rank in a certain game. She then playfully accused Saisori's of merely complaining. He vehemently told the viewers to stop their meta-commentary, expressing frustration over comments about his gaming skill being good, but his luck being terrible, always encountering high-ranking players in co-op, and being called a degenerate brother. He also questioned if the Yato bullying trend began after his brother's appearance. Saisori's continued his outburst, explaining that if the image of brother equals Demon Lord spread, he would lose his own standing. He then pointed out that Kale was also making rather meta remarks. Kale, appearing on a broadcast screen alongside Sakura and Samire, calmly asked Saisori's what he wished to know. Saisori's then declared that they would defeat the brother right there to determine the true Demon Lord. Later, Kale, now dressed in a formal suit, smiled as he inquired about Samire, then answered his own question, stating that she would not be coming. His eyes widened slightly as he acknowledged that he had, in fact, already known she wouldn't be present. Kale reflected on his journey to the PS studio, having assumed it was Samire's program. He had even donned a suit, intending to offer a formal apology. Now seated at a desk with Yaeshi and Momiji, surrounded by monitors, Kale wondered why things had turned out this way, feeling a peculiar sense of childishness about the situation. Meanwhile, Saisori's, still visible on a screen, declared that he had asked Samire for assistance. He complained that Kale was too adept at involving his brother in the program, and mused if Kale was perhaps too fond of him, adding that otaku friends were starving. Kale covered his face with his hand, acknowledging that there was nothing to be done. He realized that Samire had never explicitly stated that the program was hers. As Sakura greeted him with a bright smile, Kale, still partially covering his face, addressed Saisori's Yato Grants, asking what they were doing today, and mentioning the name Ieyasu Fiel von Einsberg. He found himself the subject of a live broadcast viewer comments, which mocked his Demon Lord persona and questioned if he would retire from being a VTuber if he lost the upcoming competition. Some viewers even suggested he was always getting beaten up. As the comments scrolled, his sister, Sakura, cheerfully informed him that today's event would be a battle game for each stage. He reacted with a surprised seriously. Saisori's, with a wide, fang grin, then explained the stakes. The loser would have to read an embarrassing line collected from message box, and if they didn't put their heart into it, they'd have to do it again. He added that the staff would shuffle the message box. Kale, listening intently, internally acknowledged the rules, thinking he absolutely did not want to lose. Viewer comments continued to flow, some expressing high expectations for his acting skills, others wondering if he could make his brother lose, and some even suggesting sabotaging him with items. One comment offered 2,000 yen as a body price for the princess, Sakura, to lose. The competition began, with the game characters including a fox, a pig, a rabbit, and a bear lined up at the starting line of a kart racing track. A voice announced, "All right, let's begin." On the track, Saisaris, represented by the fox character, declared he would defeat Kale. Kale, watching his own pig character on screen, noted that Saisaris' fox character was constantly following him, wondering if that was a line he would say from behind. Saisaris, still grinning fiercely, reiterated his intent to crush Kale completely, ensuring he finished in last place. The race continued, with the fox character in second place and the pig character in first. The fox character, Saisaris, confidently stated he had no intention of losing, while the pig character, Kale, exclaimed in frustration, "Who are you?" Viewer comments identified the fox character as Aoya Sophia von Einsburn's mother, a name Kale did not recognize. Meanwhile, Sakura, observing the race, remarked on how fast both of them were. Viewer comments speculated about Kale being in first place with Saisaris right behind him, and wondered if Kale would use items. Others warned against underestimating Saisaris' bad luck, calling it fatal in this game, and questioned if the princess, Sakura, could catch up from 8th place. Back in the studio, Saisaris, still focused on the game, shouted at Kale to shut up and stop complaining about being unable to escape. Kale, looking annoyed, retorted that Saisaris was persistent and told him to just give up. He observed the race results, noting his 5th place standing. He realized someone had used a Bakemon item twice in a row, a tactic that had likely influenced the outcome. He then wondered about Sakura's luck in the race. The race concluded, displaying the top positions, 1st, 2nd, and 4th. Viewer comments flooded the screen, celebrating the goal and remarking that the rankings hadn't changed much. They eagerly anticipated the first penalty game of the day for the princess, wondering what embarrassing line she would be forced to utter. Moments later, Sakura stared wide-eyed at a piece of paper she held, her expression a mix of shock and dread. She uttered a soft, desperate "no" as Kale called out to her, sensing her distress. She recoiled, her face contorted in protest, vehemently declaring her refusal to participate. Kale, however, simply told her not to worry. Viewer comments, meanwhile, were a flurry of excitement, with some expressing relief for the princess and others eagerly anticipating her cries. They reminded everyone that rules were rules and speculated about the nature of the line she had received. Sakura, still hesitant, questioned Kale, asking if he truly intended for her to go through with it and if he wouldn't regret his decision. He reminded her that she was the one who had agreed to the terms, urging her to proceed. She allowed a soft sigh, resigned to her fate. With a blush spreading across her cheeks, Sakura reluctantly read the assigned line aloud. "I love you, big brother." The words felt incredibly awkward and embarrassing to her. Overwhelmed by humiliation, Sakura covered her face with both hands, letting out a prolonged scream of mortification. The viewer comments exploded with a mix of reactions. Some declared it respectful death. Others simply grass. Many found it cute, while some lamented her loss of dignity. There were remarks about her harsh brother and exclamations of tight LOL, with a few questioning if this was the behavior of a real brother. Kale, observing the scene, found the entire situation incredibly awkward, feeling as though he might vomit. He internally mused that calling someone big brother was only acceptable for elementary school children, or within the confines of a two-dimensional fictional world. Still flushed with embarrassment, Sakura confronted Kale, demanding to know why he had insisted she participate. She questioned whose penalty game this truly was, asserting that it was difficult for her. Viewer comments noted the indirect damage inflicted upon Kale and praised Sakura's performance. Sakura, reaching her limit, declared that the situation was too much for her and she could no longer endure it. She proposed that next time, they should just do it with only the two of them. Viewer comments quickly pointed out that she was attempting to escape from Saisaris. Saisaris, with a predatory grin, suggested to Kale that if he continued to hold back, their match might devolve into a penalty game. He then challenged Kale directly, asking if he was ready for a one-on-one duel. Kale, after a moment of consideration, agreed. Kale internally acknowledged that if the current situation persisted, he would be unable to avoid a penalty game without an extraordinary stroke of luck with in-game items. With this realization, he declared his intention to proceed with a one-on-one challenge. The race began in earnest. Saisaris, in his avatar, confidently asserted his dominance, promising to demonstrate who the true Demon Lord was, as Kale's avatar trailed in second place. On-screen commentary highlighted the epic showdown between the Demon Lord reincarnated as a human and the Demon Lord remaining human, noting Saisaris' lead and questioning if Kale's pure princess persona would truly result in a 50-50 chance, implying a genuine test of skill. As the race continued, Saisaris, still in his avatar, playfully taunted Kale, asking if he was nervous and acknowledging his impressive skill as the game's director. Kale, however, found Saisaris' performance somewhat lacking, stating that he had expected more effort. Saisaris, in turn, retorted that Kale was being incredibly annoying. Back in the studio, Kale observed the live broadcast, his expression unreadable. Viewer comments scrolled rapidly across the screen, noting a clear disconnect between the two competitors, praising Saisari's gaming prowess over his anime knowledge, and even calling for Yaeshi. One comment, referencing Dragon Ball, prompted Kale to utter a confused "what?" when it mentioned Vegeta. Kale reflected on the match, acknowledging that it was indeed a good fight and not merely a one-sided display of power. He admitted to himself that it had been a long time since he had enjoyed a game so thoroughly. Suddenly, Saisari's avatar crossed the finish line, shouting "goal" in triumph. Kale, taken aback, questioned what had just happened, while Saisari's, beaming with pride, offered his congratulations on the race. Saisari's, still grinning broadly, asked Kale if he was truly content with losing so easily, then declared himself the one truly worthy of the title Demon Lord. Kale, with a resigned expression, simply acknowledged his statement. Saisari's continued to gloat, asserting that he was indeed stronger and that his victory had been effortless. Kale, once again, offered a simple, weary affirmation. Just as Kale accepted his defeat, Sakura burst into the room, her face alight with mischievous joy. She loudly proclaimed Kale's loss and gleefully announced the impending penalty game, leaving Kale to utter a sound of utter resignation. She was gleeful. He, however, was internally lamenting his loss, realizing he had forgotten about the penalty game. He questioned if he would have known the outcome if he had thrown the race at the end, then dismissed the thought, acknowledging his defeat. Moments later, Saisari's and Sakura were openly enjoying the situation. Saisari's admitted he had forgotten about the penalty game's existence, while she expressed her excessive excitement for the game, then quickly reflected on her own behavior. Kale, holding a small card, seemed to be contemplating the penalty. He muttered to himself about the situation, acknowledging that it was a penalty game and that he couldn't avoid it. He then asked himself what he should do. She then explained that the penalty involved reading a message from an anonymous sender. Kale, surprised, asked if such a thing was allowed, but she confirmed it, adding that she had a hunch about who sent it. He sighed, resigned, and prepared to read. As he prepared, Saisari's avatar appeared behind him, seemingly a manifestation of the game's rules or Kale's own thoughts. Kale internally acknowledged that he didn't want to admit his own immaturity. The message box displayed various comments, some identifying the sender as Momiji, others as Yaeshi, and some simply calling the sender a criminal. Kale's manager, observing the situation, stated that rules were rules and that Kale would have to properly reflect on his loss next time. Saisari's, on the other hand, found the message nice and wondered if there would be another one-on-one match. Sakura, with a wide smile, readily agreed to another match, suggesting they do it just the two of them next time. The scene then shifted back to the game, showing the avatars of Kale and Saisari's racing again, confirming the one-on-one rematch. Saisari's fox-like avatar was in the lead, with Kale's cat-like avatar in second place. Back in his human form, Kale reflected on Saisari's skill, noting that he was surprisingly good at the game. He realized he couldn't afford to take the penalty games lightly anymore. Saisari's, still grinning, declared that Kale's loss was not a big deal, as he was just an ordinary person. Kale, looking somewhat dejected, agreed that he was indeed an ordinary person, wondering why he was even there. His manager, observing Kale's reaction, commented that it was rare to see him lose, calling it a rare sight. He also speculated that Kale might have been holding back, a sentiment that was echoed by others. He mused that he wasn't truly holding back, yet he also didn't want to win too overwhelmingly, fearing it would make him disliked. Still, he wondered if being disliked truly mattered, especially if it meant leaving this world behind. Just then, Sakura, noticing his pensive expression, asked him what was wrong, while he internally acknowledged that being deceived was his own responsibility and fault. He then asserted that Samire had nothing to do with the current situation, his gaze sharp and serious. Sakura, however, seemed to disagree, stating that it was wrong to take advantage of such a kind person, referencing the princess incident. She wondered if her brother was truly serious. While viewer comments speculated about Kale's affection for Samire, the princess incident, and the Demon Lord's second form being common knowledge, suggesting this was the real match. As Sakura spoke, Saisari's avatar, still in second place, suddenly dropped in rank, prompting Kale to question if he was intentionally throwing the game. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck Saisari's avatar, now in first place, causing a brilliant explosion of light. Viewer comments noted the pinpoint lightning strike and questioned if he had intentionally lowered his rank. With the lightning strike, Saisari's avatar was once again in second place, and the game's mechanics were revealed. The lower one's rank, the more powerful items they received. The difference in skill was balanced by these items, making it a matter of simply overtaking an unsuspecting opponent. Saisari's, now visibly frustrated, slammed his controller down, exclaiming that it was unfair for the second-place player to use such a powerful item. Viewer comments echoed his frustration, calling it a cheat and praising Kale's brutal playing. Kale, with a subtle smirk, simply stated that such tactics would not work on him. Saisari's, clutching a device, erupted in frustration, unable to comprehend how Kale had managed to catch up from 8th place. He found it utterly absurd. His frustration stemmed from the game's inherent mechanics, which allowed even the most skilled players to be targeted for the top spot. Yet, the system also ensured that if a player followed the most efficient path, they should be uncatchable. The current situation, however, seemed to defy this logic, implying his rank was now the opposite of what he intended. Despite Saisari's strategic efforts, Kale stood triumphant in first place, a confident smile gracing his lips as he asked if Saisari's had anticipated this move. Saisari's, relegated to second, could only clench his teeth and let out a guttural cry of defeat. The outcome of the match meant a penalty game, and Sakura, her expression eager, urged Saisari's to quickly read the rules. He grumbled in annoyance, but Kale, accepting his victory, agreed to read them. Still reeling from his loss, Saisari's tried to distance himself from the situation, insisting that he had no desire to play a game with Kale and that Kale must be mistaken about his intentions. His protests were met with amusement from unseen observers, who commented on his tsundere behavior and his persistent demands for the princess. Saisari's remained hunched over, utterly defeated. As Saisari's wallowed, Sakura assured Kale that she was ready for the next game. Kale, his expression hardening, then turned to Saisari's, demanding a more spirited reaction from him before declaring that he would take the lead in the upcoming challenge. Sakura watched the exchange with a hint of concern, while unseen players commented on the unfolding drama. They noted Momiji's continued beast performance, Saisari's being ignored, and the princess not escaping, concluding that this was now the penalty game fever time. The game's interface reappeared, reflecting the ongoing challenge. Saisari's, regaining some composure, declared that he would not lose the next round, though he still insisted he did not want to play a serious game against Kale. Despite Saisari's earlier reluctance, the next round was imminent. Sakura, however, expressed her strong dislike for the penalty game. Saisari's, his fangs visible in a determined grin, urged them forward, while Kale, a confident smile on his face, promised to return the favor for Saisari's earlier tactics. He had promised to return the favor, and true to his word, a chaotic penalty game soon followed. During the ordeal, his sister, Sakura, likely cursed him as damn big brother, while he, in turn, might have privately considered her his foolish